Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Nigel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. Can't complain at all. Go ahead and introduce yourself and the name of your business.
So my name is Nigel Broomhall. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of a company called Invisible Urban Charging. We focus on EV charging infrastructure as a service. So
Awesome.
we provide end-to-end EV charging infrastructure done for customers, and they just get the benefits of being able to charge their vehicles.
Awesome, man. We are looking forward to learning more about your business. But before we jump into that, we want to learn a little bit more about you. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and share with us a little bit about your journey.
Oh, look, my journey started actually back when, after I'd finished university, or as you'd say, college, I went into financial services. So I did a term in financial services, about a decade. Learning all about the discipline of building a good business model, putting together a solid financial case, things like lending, understanding how finance works. And so I worked essentially in a relatively large corporate to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spent the next decade working in energy and technology. So I spent a period of time working in an energy company that was 100% renewable. So I really drank the Kool-Aid on renewable energy and the benefits of sustainability through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked for IBM for about 3.5 years, running one of their energy divisions, which was really fascinating. Saw inside what is one of the most successful technology businesses in the world. Got to see inside some of the laboratories around different parts of the world, which was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then got drawn into more sustainability focused projects. So spent some time in Australia, which has a massive amount of solar deployed, battery storage, those types of things. And from that, got drawn into EV charging infrastructure about sort of 7 years ago, but with an energy background.
Okay, now you said that you were able to drink that Kool-Aid and fully dive yourself into the energy. In that particular process, while you were in that decade of your life, what is it that stood out to you? What's one of the highlights or a couple of highlights you can share with us that made you so intrigued about that section of work?
Oh, look, there's this perception that renewable energy is in some way bad or is not a complementary technology to the way we produce energy today. And what I found through that process was that was fundamentally wrong. That was a very single dimensional sort of perspective. And there was also this global perception that you couldn't have a high proportion of renewable energy in a system, or that system would break. Now, look, with my strange accent, I come from a country called New Zealand. In any one year, 80 to 85% of all electricity produced is renewable
Mm-hmm.
from renewable sources.
Mm-hmm.
And, we layered into that things like wind and geothermal, and they work. So that was really insightful for me, going from something like financial services, which is really just focused on the bottom line, to more around, okay, so how can we do something that's beneficial to the planet while also making sure it is financially sustainable as well?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now, as you finished that, you moved on to IBM. We know the monster that IBM is. What are some of the technical things that you learned there that got you prepped for your current situation?
Oh, look, what was fascinating about IBM is a couple of things. One is they are a technology giant, but they're also a very professional sales machine.
Mm-hmm.
They absorb probably more companies in a year than anybody else does. They issue 20,000 patents a year, but then they take that technology and those insights and they monetize it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't monetize it in a sort of evil way. They monetize it in a positive way. And so that any company that gets absorbed into IBM, they really get the benefits of that sales machine. So being inside IBM really taught me about, there's a lot of discipline in IBM around financial controls. There's a lot of discipline around the best places in the world to find talent.
Hmm.
and to utilize that talent. And there's a lot of discipline in there around the way they take products to market. And
Yeah,
those were some of the big insights for me.
makes a lot of sense. Now, it sounds like you had about 2.5 decades worth of corporate type experience. Now, what you're doing now, it is a business. You're an entrepreneur. What was there an event that happened that made Nigel say, "Hey, I am going to jump out of this corporate structure and get out here and become an entrepreneur"?
Yeah, so my term that I did with the renewable energy company under a CEO by the name of Keith Turner was probably the seminal sort of break for me. He was an incredibly entrepreneurial man, even though he was working under essentially a government-owned entity, but he really pushed the boundaries. So obviously, I'd been indoctrinated into the corporate world, had lived inside that machine for a decade before I got exposed to working in energy. And it wasn't like you'd think energy is. It wasn't stuffy. They were looking to push the envelope as much as they could. He spent some time overseas at INSEAD, came back and picked 7 of us and said, your job is to go away. You'll be locked in a, well, not locked, but you'll be off from the side of the business.
Hmm.
Nobody from the business apart from himself and one or two of the executives would interact with us.
Hmm.
And our job was to come up with a new way of retailing electricity. So that sort of entrepreneurial break, it took us about a week to work out we didn't have to wear a suit to work. And then we just really cracked into it. And that really exposed me to, you know, a lot of entrepreneurial thinking about how you could do something different.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. We want to build a foundation of how you got to your current business. Now, share with us what it is that you're doing now and how are you helping the communities out there?
Yeah, so what we do is we provide an end-to-end EV charging as a service business. So we source the hardware, we do all the permitting, we do all the installation, we do all the commissioning, and then we operate, maintain, and monetize that network on behalf of our customers, which is really the site owners. So if you're a business that's looking to put in EV charging infrastructure, you don't have the capital for it, or you don't have the technical desire to understand it because it's really not that simple,
Hmm.
then we provide that type of solution. And we generally provide it for large organizations. Our mission is to accelerate the world's transition to electric transport. And we see all the benefits that come from taking internal combustion vehicles off the road and replacing them with EVs, particularly there's a lot of communities that benefit from going electric. For example, a lot of poorer communities around the world, not just in America where we are, but around the world, they live in areas that are close to main sort of transportation corridors.
Hmm.
Their amount of exposure to poisonous gases that are coming out of internal combustion vehicles is much higher than in other areas of the world. So, we see direct benefits from this transition right across the board, and that's really our focus.
As we are just creating a beautiful picture on the canvas, I want to dive a little bit deeper into what those corporations look like you want to partner with. Those, I'm assuming, like maybe apartment complexes or and things like that. Tell us a little bit more about what that ideal home looks like for you to implement your end-to-end service.
It's a great question. So if you think about EV charging infrastructure, it's a very different way to fuel a vehicle. So the way in which we fuel internal combustion engine vehicles, think petrol, gasoline, think diesel, is we pretty much run them to empty and then we go and find a refueling station, a gas station.
Hmm.
But with EV, we don't have to do that. Wherever we park the vehicle, we could be charging it. So, those places where people pause, those types of businesses can benefit from this type of amenity. And if they can get people to pause longer, then they'll indulge in more of whatever that business provides. So for us, because we focus on what is called level two charging infrastructure. So think it takes a vehicle several hours to charge rather than several minutes, which is the DC fast charging. We sort of, our ideal clients, and you can see it in the list that we're already working with, are people like, large parking operators. We're rolling out 5,000 chargers with Icon Parking in New York at the moment. We're working with other large parking operators because people tend to park their vehicles for long periods of time. We also work with accommodation providers. We're rolling out across a large suite of installations at the moment with a company called
Mm-hmm.
Pacifica Host.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really about, overnight charging while you're staying at an accommodation. We do life sciences as well. So we work with large life science corporate campuses to roll out chargers for not only their fleet, but for their staff. And then we look at places where people eat and things like that as well. So malls, those types of things. Again, where people are spending a period of time there and they can top their vehicle up. This isn't about, I've run my electric vehicle to zero, now I'm panicking and I need to find somewhere to charge.
Mm-hmm.
This is a top up, top up, top up type approach.
Now, with this, as we are, again, just trying to make the canvas as beautiful as possible, let's just say I have one of those locations where people are going to be there for a period of time and it works well for the topping off. How long does an engagement last, or how long does it take for you to say, okay, let me look at your property, these are the infrastructures I got to find to make all the pieces fit? How long does that take if I say, okay, Nigel, let's do this?
Another great question. So from signing our agreement to commissioning and live, we budget 12 weeks.
Okay.
It allows for permitting. Now, permitting can be a bit of an unknown because you just don't know how long that's going to take. And it does vary quite significantly by jurisdiction. We see a lot of differences, for example, in permitting on the West Coast versus the East Coast. But that 12 weeks is really what we focus on because we're motivated to get that infrastructure on site as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that once a client has made that decision, they also want it done as efficiently as possible.
Now, I know that traditionally there are tons of gas and diesel vehicles out there, and they're already established places. Have you guys thought about maybe working with them where you got a gas pump and then have an EV, or is that never going to mix?
It is actually mixing around the world. That's a great insight. Mm-hmm. So you do have, for example, Shell and BP went a path of rolling out EV charging infrastructure. Ironically, with new executives coming in, they have backed away from that.
Mm-hmm.
It is, if you look back and looked at it globally, it's probably the glory days for gasoline and diesel, just because I think we're at a point in the world where we're at peak. So if you were involved in running one of those large companies, the best thing you could do for your shareholders, just put all the global impacts aside, is to get as much of that out of the ground, turn it into a saleable product and to sell it. Because, we see, if you look at Norway, for example, you're seeing a collapse of gas stations. They are actually actively pulling them out now. Mm-hmm. So once you get to that critical mass and EV starts to take over as the predominant version of basic transport, you do start to see some of the needs for gasoline go away. Mm-hmm. So it definitely makes sense because of that convenience factor. Whilst most of the gas companies, they do a lot of volume of liquid product, but it's at low margin. Mm-hmm. The high margin products for them is to draw you into the convenience store and have you buy milk or have you buy whatever it is else that they sell. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at, I spent a year in Texas living in Austin, and, Buc-ee's is a wonderful experience.
Huge.
And they obviously, they make money out of fuel, but they also make a lot of money out of the convenience piece. So you are exactly right. They do make sense as destination type charging. So if I'm going somewhere, being able to jump into a Bucky's or somewhere like that is great.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, within urban environments, if I can top off where I'm going, be that at my work, be that when I'm out doing shopping, be that while I'm at a restaurant, then
Mm-hmm.
that's ideal as well.
Yeah, myself personally, right now, I still have this big gas guzzling truck, and I got to spend $60 every time I want to fill it up. I try to let it get halfway, and it's still $40. Can you inform us or give us an idea to people like me who don't know how much does it cost to charge one of those EV vehicles?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if I use the example of my vehicle and it's got a 100 kilowatt hour battery, so it's a big EV,
Mm-hmm.
about 350 miles of range. That's going to cost about $23 to
Okay.
fill it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that depends. So if I fill it up at a destination charger at peak, which is about 35 cents a kilowatt hour, yep, it's about $25. If I take the time and actually go, if I'm going to one of those a supercharger, for example,
Mm-hmm.
off peak, it might be as low as 20. So it really depends on time of day, which was a bit weird when you think about gasoline. You don't think about time of day when you go to refuel.
Mm-mm.
But for EV, what you can do also take some stress off the grid is to charge outside those peak times. And then if you charge at home, it's even cheaper. So, if you think about it in terms of cost, the most expensive is always going to be DC fast chargers on the move.
Mm-hmm.
The second is chargers like ourselves at places where people pause, and they're a little bit cheaper. And then you're a little bit cheaper again if you charge at home. And then, the perfect scenario is you charge at home and you've installed solar panels on your house, maybe batteries if you're out and about, so you can actually use the power of the sun to charge your vehicle. But not everybody has that option.
Right. Are you guys just going to be complimentary to the at-home charging, or are you guys going to get into that, or are you just going to stay with the larger options?
Yeah, we're complementary to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, residential charging, selling charges to residential homes is somebody else's business. That's not our focus.
Okay.
Our focus is about, working with predominantly large organizations to provide an amenity to their staff and also a way in which they can transition to their fleet to electric. And also for those businesses that want to attract and retain customers. So,
Mm-hmm.
we see it with, for example, Class A buildings are installing a lot of EV charging infrastructure because the staff that work in those buildings are demanding it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've even seen staff selecting businesses on the fact that they have EV chargers at their office,
Mm-hmm.
so they have a way to charge.
Yeah. Now, wrapping up things, I just want to put a bow on your business, and we've talked a lot about what you have going on, but Nigel, we all are forecasting and looking for the future. Tell us a little bit about what your idea of the future of your business looks like.
Another great question. Look, our future is all about growth. So, contrary to what people may have seen in the mass media, we're experiencing significant amounts of growth, both domestically here in the US and in Europe. So we're seeing a lot of demand coming down for an as a service product, predominantly because there's a high percentage of product that's been installed over the last 4 to 7 years that just doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't maintained, it's broken, there's complaints. So for us, it's all about helping our clients to solve to that problem as efficiently as possible and then giving them a solution they don't have to think about.
Okay.
So I'll give you the example here in Atlanta. We had a client who had a competitive product in their building,
Mm-hmm.
and they were getting 2 or 3 complaints about the charging infrastructure a week, and they were just over it.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked us to step in and solve to that problem. We actually, because it was rip and replace, which is something we focus on turning around really quickly. So while I said it was 12 weeks for a greenfields installation, we can do rip and replace within 3 to 4 weeks easily.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a lot faster. We've done it in days. So in that case, the headache that they had of these complaints every day just went away. And then we also gave them the ability through our system, they control the prices to their end clients.
Mm-hmm.
So they can choose to flex that. They can set prices that are discounted on one day versus another. They can put in surge pricing if they want to do it. It just gives them full control. So they went from this high complaint area that's, to be fair, it ranked about 11th or 12th on their list and they just never got to it, but they were irritated by it,
Mm-hmm.
to now they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all about helping to remove all of the friction associated with this type of solution.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because in that particular instance, when you're doing the ripping and replacing, they've done a lot of that foundational stuff. You just got to put a better system in there. So that makes a tons of sense. And I definitely appreciate you sharing with us about your journey, about your current business. But what I want to talk about now, because we are always trying to inform the audience, and I am confident in your 25 years in business and, you know, in the corporate structure, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of best practices and business skills that have helped you to be successful. You want to see if you can share with some of the audience some of those skills that may be able to help them to try to strive toward that same success.
Another great question. Oh, look, our business is incredibly capital intensive.
Mm-hmm.
So we made an announcement that with our partner, we have access to up to $650 million recently, but we will need a lot more capital than that. So we've spent a lot of time with Wall Street, infrastructure debt funds, venture capitalists, PE firms, and we've got some really solid insights into how to approach that and to optimize how you come out the other side of that as an entrepreneur with something of value.
Mm-hmm.
Because that transaction point is really the best opportunity for a fund, be it PE, VC, whatever it is. That is their best opportunity to extract the maximum amount of value out of whatever it is you've created at that point. Past that, then they've got to get actively involved.
Mm-hmm.
And given the scale of funds these days, they just don't have the time. So they're really, really focused on making the most out of that interaction that they can extract the value for you. If you're as an entrepreneur approaching that very daunting scenario, you need to solve to it by having a very solid business case. Can't be flaky. There can't be anything around the edges that's going to create a weak point that somebody who's looking to fund you can take advantage of. So we have a couple of philosophies in our business, and one of them is sales solves everything.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to the question that you had about, you know, my time during IBM, for example, that's a direct input for me from having spent that time. And it's the same with my co-founder. You know, we share the view that sales solves everything. If you've got sales in the pipeline, you've got customers willing to pay for your solution, then you will be able to raise money at a much better rate than you could, and you won't lose your shirt. So you need to think about, it's not good enough just to have a great product. If you've got a great product and you're leaving it up to a funder to work out what the market is, you'll end up with nothing. Mm-hmm. So you need to have a solid business. You need to have gone out and tested it, a solid product. You need to have sold it to some people, and then you can raise capital. I mean, if you've ever watched any session of Dragon's Den, all the eyebrows go up when people talk about the sales that they've done. Mm-hmm. If people in those sales are not engaged. Mm-hmm. So it's the same with the big funds. You also have to, I'd say another one is swing for the fences. Mm-hmm. Now, what we love about America is a hell yeah, go for it, go big. And you really have to do that, because if you're down below even $100 million, you're not going to get the interest of the larger funds. You're going to get interest from groups that really need to extract the maximum amount out of you that they can. You have to show that what you're growing into is of a scale that's going to get people excited. In our case, it's not difficult because, you know, the world is transitioning to electric transport, and these vehicles are going to need to be charged somewhere. Mm-hmm. But you need to have that large scale view and be able to articulate that to say, look, this is the size of the market, and not just, not just make it up. It needs to be based on real world figures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another big insight that we've had going through this process. And then the others are, there's some fundamental stuff in there that everybody knows. You got to pick the right people.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't pick the right people, you need to make decisions fast. So you need the right people on the bus. The mission is very important. And, I can't say enough about that. We have people that are attracted to our business because of what we're trying to do. And, I personally couldn't, for example, work for a cigarette company because I know that kills people.
Mm-hmm.
I have the other thing that you get taught, particularly through rigorous sales processes, is if you don't believe it,
Mm-hmm.
your customer won't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be brought into it. And in our case, because of that mission of what we're trying to achieve, I I can't tell you the number of bankers infra people that I've had as a result of us trying to work with them come to me and say, I don't know if we're going to be able to do the money, but I want to work in your company.
Mm.
So, that doing something bigger than me, doing something that's going to make a difference and make a mark on the world, that's why scale has to be big. It has to be big to attract the right money, and it has to be big to attract the right talent. If it's small, or you can do it yourself, do it yourself. But if you want to go large and you want to create something that's going to have impact, it has to be large, and it
Mm-hmm.
has to have an ambitious goal that is achievable in some way, shape, or form. So that would be the other. And then the last thing I'd say on I'm actually a big fan of Elon Musk in terms of what he's achieved. I know some of the ways in which it's done are questionable, but the impact that guy's had is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of some of the principles that he's highlighted about entrepreneurship is what did he say? He said that starting a business is like staring into an abyss and eating glass. It Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a very good book that I have listened to and read maybe 50 times now, and it's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Mm-hmm.
I fully recommend everybody reads that because it's not sugar coated. They went through very dark times. They didn't give up. They solved the problems in front of them, and they had a $1.6 billion exit. So, not giving up, staying the course, being smart enough to know when things need to be adjusted, but doing that work up front to know that this is something meaningful, this is going to have an impact. And, if that's the critical core, then the money will come. And then executing ruthlessly on that, so that you focus. In our case, it's about charges in the ground. Nothing makes any money until we get charges in the ground. It doesn't benefit us, it doesn't benefit our clients, it doesn't benefit the world unless you have charges in the ground. So we are maniacally focused on how we can get more charges in the ground. And that's the type of focus that you need to have starting and running anything.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Those are so many great ones. Ones that I pulled out of there is make sure you have a solid plan, because if you don't have an airtight plan, people will try to pick at it and figure out how to destroy it, basically, because they're trying their best to maximize there. But if you have everything foolproof, it's no worries. I love the fact of how you talked about swinging big. If you're going to be in a big market, you might as well go big. And one of the things that I'm going to put on our bulletin board is sales solve everything. So definitely going to put that up there and talk about that throughout the week. So thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. Now, I want to turn the corner just a little bit, because you've shared with us a lot about your journey, a lot of your corporate entrepreneurial experience, and definitely about those business skills. But I want to talk about Nigel. So let's just say everything is fun. You have gotten those chargers in the ground. Sales are coming along well. What is it that Nigel would do with his time if it was no money, no time, nothing would prohibit you from going forward?
Oh, look, in terms of what we do and how we can add more value, I would say that, we see the opportunity to take what we've done in a very commercial setting
Mm-hmm.
and to apply that to things like community projects. So, we get a lot of charging infrastructure. We're obviously focused on large volumes, so we get good pricing on things. We've got good support, but being able to give back, to provide, charging infrastructure at schools, for example, they naturally don't have the budgets for these types of things, but
Hmm.
giving them the ability to install things like that and providing hardware for that, I think that would be really interesting. I mean, I'm very, very focused on what AI is going to be able to do. So I spend a lot of time in the AI space working out how we can apply that and really how we can get the most out of it to the benefit of humankind. So I do see it as a threat in terms of jobs, but I think in the way in which we can apply it is significant in a sort of symbiotic way. So I spend a lot of time outside sort of work hours thinking about that, and even applying it in work. And then aside from those things, I'm a pretty avid skier. Myself and my co-founder, we've skied some pretty amazing places. I play tennis most days. I've got three children, two young children. Spending time with them. My daughter is entering her teenage years, which will be which will be great. We do a lot of traveling, so we've been
Hmm.
exposed to a lot of different cultures, and seeing different places around the world is amazing. And my son is a massive skier as well, so spending more time with him and really helping them sort of guide this next human transition. I do genuinely see the shift to AI as having a massive impact on the human race in totality. And it's just understanding, well, okay, how can people navigate that? Specifically, how can I help my family and wider family navigate that to get a good understanding of what's going on? So those are some of the things that I think about.
Awesome, awesome. Now you talked a lot about skiing, even to the fact of that your son is a good skier. What would you say is your favorite place to ski, Nigel?
That's a great question. I would say one of my favorite places to ski is Copper
Mm-hmm.
and Snowmass.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that but I do love Tremblant. So this year, from the 11th to the 14th, is the 24 hours of Tremblant.
Mm-hmm.
We have a team that's in there, and that team consists of us and our partners, so our business partners,
Mm-hmm.
and that raises money for charity, for children's charity. We and I do like Mont Tremblant as a ski destination. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's icy, it's hard, it's fast, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole children's the other thing that my wife and I have been involved in is helping with kids hearts, or the Heart Foundation for Children.
Mm-hmm.
Our son had open heart surgery when he was 3 months old, so we had a very personal journey in that space, and being able to give back to that's important as well. But my son is an avid skier now. He skis black diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
so he's 9, so he's a very good skier. But if for anybody out there, I can recommend definitely the Colorados are just amazing. Canada is pretty special. We skied Lake Louise. That was very special. -40, coldest day they had that year. I
Mm.
don't recommend that, but recommend the place.
Yeah.
And we've skied because we do work in Europe as well. We've skied in Austria as well. So
Mm-hmm.
Austria is also pretty special.
Yeah, it seems like that's a beautiful place to be. Now, Nigel, if the people that are watching today have questions about your EV charging options, they have questions about your journey, definitely about those best practices that you shared, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Oh, look, we just have a look at our website, iucharging.com. You can reach out to me directly if you are interested in what we do. So all the contact details are on there. We have an active LinkedIn page, so dive into that. Yeah, there's definitely ways to contact us through that. And we're just keen to work with people who are thinking about how they can roll out this type of infrastructure. So, those would be the best ways to get hold of us directly.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, we truly do appreciate you coming on and sharing. It's not always easy to illustrate as well as you have, and we always honor our guests by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Oh, look, this transition that the world is going through is beneficial for all of us. If I look at in our sort of space, and there's a lot of debate that happens around sort of EV charging. Um, if you think about it, and this transition from internal combustion engine to EV, I love cars. I absolutely love cars, but I don't like the fact that they waste 75% of the energy burning fuel. I don't like the fact that they poison the planet and they make cities not a great place to breathe. So this is about a new technology. Think about it like going from the old CRT TVs, for those who are old enough to remember that, to flat screens.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a change in technology. I would encourage everybody to go and drive an EV. There's nothing like experiencing it yourself. Uh, there's the solution for range anxiety, as they say, or running out of power is just to get an EV.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just won't do it. People don't do it, but there's such large benefits for all of us, really, that encouraging the world to go electric is super important. And for those that are thinking about starting a business, thinking about doing something that has been really burning them, give it a go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You might fail, but you'll learn more from the failure than you ever would from not doing anything. My objective and the objective for my children is, when we all reach the end, go with no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got something that's burning you, like you said, burn the ship, you got to give it a go. Because, as I think Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Nigel.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.